Hello and welcome. My name is Moira Flood, and I am the Alumni Engagement Manager here at Alverno College. For the month of May, we are highlighting some of our wonderful Alverno alum volunteers who take an active role in the community through volunteer opportunities as well as board membership. I'm joined today by Tiffany Wynn. Tiffany, do you want to take a minute to share a bit about yourself and what your 9 to 5 role looks like on an average day, if you will?
Yeah, well, Maura, thank you for having me today. I am very honored to have this interview with you today. Yeah, so my name is Tiffany Wynn, and I am the Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Carroll University, which is located in Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is right outside of Milwaukee. I was born and raised in Milwaukee. I have not always lived here, so I moved a few times, but always found my way back because I always got homesick. I'm very connected and close to family, so I missed them many of times when I left, and decided that hey, I just need to come back and stay in Milwaukee because this is where what Milwaukee raised me. It's where I'm grounded. It's where I have most of my friends, family, and so always missed those connections when I moved away. I went to Milwaukee Public Schools in terms of my upbringing. I like to say that NPS helped raise me as well, and that I am a product of NPS, and I mean that in a very good way. Early on in my career, I wanted actually to be a sports broadcaster because I loved all things sports. I was fanatical about soccer, baseball, basketball, football, like a true sports fanatic. And went to HBCU, a historical Black college university called Virginia State University, my freshman year to major in mass communications, and decided during my freshman year that I no longer wanted to be in front of the TV. I wanted to do something that was more so behind the scenes, but still something that connected me to people, helps me tell stories, because those are things that I love to do, write, still be able to develop and use my interpersonal relationship skills. And so I decided that I wanted to get off into public relations because I still, again, wanted to be a communicator and tell stories and still work with media, but more so behind the scenes. And so my freshman year, decided that I was going to do that, and decided too that I was going to move back home, and went to Mount Mary University to actually major in public relations when Mount Mary had a public relations major. Now it's just a concentration. And so went to Mount Mary University and got my Bachelor of Art degree in public relations, practiced public relations for a number of years, almost, I believe, a little bit over 10 years, and thought that a natural progression for me and the next step in my career was actually to go more so into marketing, to kind of pivot my career direction and trajectory over into marketing. So decided that I wanted to go back to school and get my MBA because I thought for me to go into marketing, I needed to increase my business acumen, and looked at a number of MBA programs across Milwaukee because I did not want to leave, and landed on Alverno for a number of reasons. One is because I knew some pretty strong and powerful women who had actually graduated from Alverno in their MBA programs, and I spoke with them to ask them, how did you like it? What did you learn about it? Would you recommend it? And all of them recommended it to me. I mean, strong recommendations. They thought that it was a great program, and definitely said they're glad they made that choice and that I should also make the same choice. And so also what I liked about Alverno's MBA program, and the reason that I chose it, is because it also, it was more practical than theory, right? It was more so really digging your heels into the major itself, and really doing the work with your current organizations that you were currently with at the time. So it really integrated the class work with also your day-to-day work in the professional world. And I thought that that was very important, that the two were married together. And so I thought definitely I should choose Alverno, and glad that I did, and got my MBA, and immediately went into marketing after I graduated.
That's great, and we're glad that you chose Alverno. I mean, we're so happy to have you, and it's wonderful to hear that you had so many positive recommendations as well, which really means a lot to our community. So thank you for sharing that.
I think what I did not answer for you though is what does my day 9 to 5 look like? Yeah. So I apologize for that.
That's okay.
So let me try to sum that up as quickly as possible. So in terms of my 9 to 5, as the VP of marketing at Carroll When we are fully staffed, we're the department of 10. Right now, we're just one away from being that. But I currently have approximately 7 people reporting directly up to me. And then I have 2 people that's in middle management, and then my position. And so our department is set up like an in-house agency because we do marketing and communications campus-wide for all the different departments, all the programs. So we are the only marketing and communications department on campus. And that includes internal communications, external communications, media relations, videography and photography, graphic design. It includes digital marketing, social media. So it includes everything that you would find in a regular marketing department or at a marketing agency. So we have all these different specialized skill sets among our employees that's in this department who are focusing on their specific talents to come up with different marketing campaigns, come up with different collateral strategies to really further and enhance the brand of Carroll University.
That's great.
And so so in my 9 to 5, which can change at the drop of a dime on a day-to-day basis. But what I really do is help come up with those strategies, help come up with those tactics, help come up with those plans to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward and that we are shining Carroll University in the best light that it could be shown.
That's wonderful. And I'm sure never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment.
Higher ed can always promise.
I agree.
Awesome. Well, you are, as you've mentioned, a professional communicator. How does your work help you to better advocate or to promote the work that's associated with the volunteer organizations or opportunities that you've chosen to participate in?
Yeah, I think it helps because I understand messaging, right? I understand how something needs to be messaged to attract a target audience or attract the people that you're looking to target. I can tap into those experiences to help grab the attention of different segments, whether that is donors or it's other volunteers or whomever else your audience may be. I can also suggest what is the best communication tools to reach intended audiences. And so that expertise that I have, I can always carry in and to a volunteer experience to help them better communicate with their customers or other people that they're trying to target.
And I know the world of communications is ever changing with all the different mediums that we can now communicate in. So I'm sure that you are very busy in that regard. So that's very.
Yes, because we have several different audience here that we are targeting, right? And that's dependent on, whether or not they're a traditional student or a non-traditional student, or are they a student of color versus, a white student, or are they, what program, what major are they interested in? Because you're going to target them in different ways, right? Whether it's health sciences or it's history, right? So, which are polar opposites in terms of major. So yes, you have so many, and then you have donors, right? A lot of alumni and yes, there's just so many different people on a day-to-day basis that in the university setting, so many different target audiences, as you know yourself too.
Yes, it's a responsibility of wearing many hats, which
Absolutely
can be a fun challenge. So speaking of wearing many hats, you are a board member of Professional Dimensions, Grateful Girls, and Independence First. Do you want to share briefly just what drew you to those organizations?
Yeah, so Professional Dimensions is all about women empowerment and women leadership. To be a part of an organization that promotes that is, and that is full of powerful women, it's an honor. Anything I can do to help empower and promote women, I'm definitely up for that, right? Being a woman myself, and especially a working mom as well, and understanding those different challenges that women face, working mothers face, women of color face, it just puts me in a unique position to be able to advocate for women in those positions as well. Grateful Girls is also an organization that works to empower girls and women who have experienced hardships and trauma. And so that's why that organization is near and dear to my heart, because again, it focuses primarily on women, and it's women too who have experienced, some circumstances that many of us may not have. And so having empathy and compassion for them and giving back in any way that you can is what drew me to that organization. And lastly, independence first, it empowers people living with disabilities. And anyone living with a disability is, considered an underrepresented group. And if I can help empower underrepresented groups, that is also something that I'm very passionate about. And any way that I can help them as well, because, whether that's ensuring that they're being seen, that they're being heard, I know how important that is. And so if there's ways that I can help tap into that and help out in any way I can, I am always more than willing.
That's great. And I know it sounds like a lot of these kind of tie into not only providing a voice for those that may not have one, but also amplifying those that do and that have their, their needs and their desires and making sure that the community as a whole is aware of ways that we can support them. So that's really great. And it's really wonderful that you've gotten so involved with them.
Thank you.
When reflecting on your path to board membership, what stands out to you as one of the most significant rewards or one of the greatest rewards that you've accumulated along the way?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's just being a part of great causes, right? And helping them push their mission forward by being on the board and offering my expertise to help them grow and expand their reach. And then also the great people you get to know and the relationships you get to build by being a part of boards is something else that I value. And what has been, I think, too really great for me when it comes to being on these boards and reflecting on my path is just being able to be connected to something that maybe you don't necessarily experience. But then again, that's a part of the empathy journey, right? That's a part of putting your place in someone else's shoes. So you can, because a lot of times, again, these people that I'm advocating for and I'm helping to empower, many times they don't have a seat at the table to do that for themselves. So if I can be that conduit and I can be that person who can have that seat at the table and advocate for them, I feel like that is my responsibility. That is my job to give back and to do that and to speak for people who can't necessarily speak for themselves.
That's so important, especially given the climate of our society as it is today. I think just taking a kind of a self-inventory and saying, how can I help to move this cause forward, or how can I make a difference for someone is so important. In terms of
fulfilling, though, it's also it's something that helps, invigorate your spirit,
right?
Something that keeps you going, even when you may be having your own rough and tough days, right? Just knowing sometimes if you can help someone else, it just brightens your own day. And so sometimes it does more for you as it does for them, right?
Right. And you did a great job of touching on the fact that it also introduces you as an individual to a lot of different perspectives as well, which I think helps you, and something that Alverno is really proud of is to take a much larger view of the world and not think of it as just this single scope of what have I experienced, what do I know, but instead being open-minded and really being empathetic and open to not only hearing about other people's experiences, but also making an effort to help them to get over that hurdle if that's what they're facing at this time.
I agree.
And so in terms of your board memberships, have there been any hurdles or any significant challenges that you've faced where you've just felt like, I just have to get past this and then it's smooth sailing or anything like that?
For me, what always is a challenge is time. So as I grow more and more in my career, my life gets busier and busier. Also being a mom, being a wife, and try to juggle all of these things and still give back, it can be time consuming. It can be difficult to find the right balance, right? Because someone or something is going to feel left out at some point. And so I just keep trying at the time management thing. I just keep trying to make it all fit in and work. But it is a constant challenge. It is, again, especially as I grow in my roles and take on more responsibility, that also comes with me having to spend more time, whether that's at work or with my staff or whatever the case may be. And so, but I still think it's so valuable to still find time to give back because again, it's fulfilling for me. And so, but I do struggle with the time management. It's still a struggle for me. It still is. And my son, I mean, he's getting at the age now where he's getting involved in more clubs and sports, and someone needed to take him. And so you just have to find a way to balance all of that. But I'm still trying.
Yeah.
I will get there one day.
One of the challenges that I always like to say is I have so many things that I'm so passionate about, but I want to be able to give a good portion of myself to that. And I think it goes back to that kind of finding that healthy balance.
So I think that's so important.
It's good to hear that you're working on it and that hopefully it's going well and everything is falling into place well.
I think I have made progress, definitely made progress. Great. And I think it's just, for me, is really settling in. I understand what you're saying when you say there's so many things that I'm passionate about, but then it's like, okay, but I can only pick one that I can really focus in on. And for me, it is advocating for women in underrepresented groups. And women are a part of underrepresented groups, right? So maybe I can just sum that up by saying advocating for underrepresented groups of people in our society.
Definitely. And one of the things that I think we touched on a little bit in our previous conversation was just the ability to network and to say, okay, I recognize that I don't have the capacity to take on another responsibility, but I know someone that shares my passion. And so I think pulling in the network, as you touched on a little bit earlier, and saying, not only am I recognizing that this isn't something that maybe I'm the best candidate for, but also maybe I just don't have the time to dedicate to it in the way that it needs to be dedicated, and to be able to open it up to your broader, your broader world and your team and all of that, which is great.
No, absolutely. I just recently did that. So I have been an adjunct at Mount Mary for the last 5 years and decided that that's one thing that I definitely need to take off my plate. I just cannot manage that anymore. And so someone that I know who was passionate about teaching and always wanted to get into it is the person that I recommended to take my place. So definitely know what you're talking about. Yes, but I am very passionate.
You're empowering the next person as well. Yes. I mean, it goes back to what your root cause is that you're helping to empower the next person, which is wonderful.
Agree.
Great. What advice would you offer to professionals who are looking to enter the pipeline or to leadership via a volunteer opportunity?
Yeah, one, I think it goes back to what we just talked about. Really assess what it is that you're passionate about. Right? What is going to keep you going when time does become an issue? What are you still going to want to do and give your time to, even when you can't find the time? So I will start there. And then that will lead you to what you want to volunteer your time to. Then identify organizations that's aligned with your passions, right? So if you want to volunteer, let's say that you care about animal welfare, then you need to look at organizations that's geared towards that passion. And those are the ones you want to start to reach out to. I would say preferably, start with someone you may know that's connected to that organization. And you can find that out through LinkedIn, right? We have the easy access now to find out almost everything about a person when it comes to their professional and volunteer life. You can just look right on LinkedIn and say, hey, who's connected to Halls? Let's just say if it's Halls, right? And if you know someone, then I would say reach out to them first and ask them more about the organization and how you can become involved. However, if you do not know anyone at that organization, you still don't let that deter you, right? You can still reach out to them because many times nonprofits are always looking for volunteers. They rarely turn anyone away. So they probably would welcome your phone call and be very excited to speak with you and to bring you in to help volunteer. So I would say still reach out and express your interest. And then there are also websites that post volunteer opportunities. Sometimes I see them on LinkedIn, but I remember volunteer.org, if that's still around, or there was another one and I can't think of the name for it, but I remember volunteer.org. But there's websites out there that connect volunteers with different nonprofits. So if you just Google that, simply Google that in your area, you probably will find it.
Yeah, I love that it's going back to think about something that you're really passionate about, and what is going to be it's going to be what you're willing to part with your time for.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I there's so many things that I wish I could get on my soapbox with my megaphone and just say this needs to change, or we need to be better about this. But there's a handful of things that I would really say I'm going to give up my free time to help move that forward. And so I think it's really wonderful to have that reminder of it's almost better about quality versus quantity in that sense as well, of not trying to overextend yourself and not trying to be everything to everyone, because at some point you're not going to be giving anything to anyone. So
well, definitely burn yourself. That's a quick road to burning yourself out. Don't do that.
Right. In what ways do you see that you were able to use your Alverno education? I know you touched on your MBA program as how it kind of made sense for your career, but do you use that Alverno education as well to make a difference in your community?
Yeah, so Alverno, it taught a lot about building community partnerships and the importance of partnerships overall, right? I think Alverno did a good job of instilling in us that community and business partnerships belong together, right? They're vitally important to both the business side of it and the community side of it, right? I think we now live in a world too where we know our upcoming generations are more interested in corporations that also give back in sustainable ways or give back to their community, right? It's about people, profit, and planet now. And so I think that's something that Alverno taught as well and was heavy on, that I think people really took away from an MBA education. I know I did. And I just think, as we, in our society, as we grow, as these generations continue to grow up and become a part of the workforce, I think that's something that they'll carry on. And it's something already that I believe Alverno was already teaching. So they're already ahead of the game. Yeah, I think also Alverno just really helps me increase I think we talked a little bit about my business acumen, and then also getting really good with budgets. So prior to my Alverno education, budgets were scary to me, but now I'm much more confident and have successfully managed millions of dollars in budgets, and helps nonprofits do the same, so they can swim and not sink. And so, just making sure that they allocate their dollars in the right places so they can see a great return on their investments. And so that's something that I've been able, just from the business aspect side of it, helped and brought that skill set to many of the nonprofits that I volunteer for. That Alverno taught me.
That's great. And I appreciated the fact that you mentioned too that a core function of the MBA program is applying those skills to what you're doing at the time. And I think, having that hands-on experience too, I'm sure has helped to kind of learn by trial and error in terms of what works really well, and putting that into practice along with what you're learning in the classroom, and being able to perfect that in a time frame where mistakes are okay because you are learning, and being able to kind of weed through that prior to necessarily putting it into practice, in ways that it could have a more significant impact, that you've had that hands-on experience to learn and to see from others what works well, what doesn't work well. And as you said, sharing your business acumen with the organizations that you're also volunteering with, because as we know, most of those are volunteer run. And so there's not necessarily a designated person that is doing the budgets, that is handling the communication. So it's great to have very active and engaged volunteers like you. So thank you for that.
It's my honor. It's a privilege.
So our final question today, and I love to ask this because I feel like we get a different answer every time, but what does Alverno Strong mean to you?
Yeah, this is such a great question. For me, Alverno Strong means advocating for yourself. It means advocating for others. It means advocating for what you believe in, I believe standing up, even if you have an unpopular opinion or an unpopular belief, it means never folding, just really standing on your own beliefs and your own convictions and being true to yourself.
That's great. I have goosebumps. That was so good. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for joining us today and for sharing about all of your volunteer involvement, as well as all of your work with Carol and everything that you're doing for the community. And of course, we're thrilled that you have continued to come home to Milwaukee, and we're so proud of everything that you're doing and everything that you will continue to do. So thank you again so much for joining us today.
Thank you again for having me. I
Yes, of
appreciate it.
course.
Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Thank you.